Awesome.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Radiator Comics Studio. My name is Neil Brideau. My pronouns are he, him. I run Radiator Comics, which distributes self-published and small press comics. Radiator Comics Studio is a series of online programs and print publications designed to support and expand the cartooning community in South Florida and to connect it with the national scene. And Radiator Comics Studio is supported by the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, and we're grateful for their support. We are broadcasting tonight from stolen Miccosukee land. The people from whom the land was stolen are still here and are still caring for this place. It's also important to acknowledge the history of African-American, Bahamian, Haitian, and other Caribbean people whose labor made South Florida what it is today. We have a lifelong responsibility to be better neighbors to the people and places where we're located and to work to dismantle white supremacy. We feel that expressing one's ideas and feelings through comics and zines can be really powerful. And one of our hopes with programming like tonight's is to make those tools of expression more accessible. So thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm very excited to talk with Steve Saiz here in person, and also on the line is Lillian Banderas from both from Dale Zine to talk about their publishing and printing efforts, their zine shop downtown, and all the organizing that they do. Steve and Lillian were some of the first zinesters that I met when I moved to Miami, and they have been really welcoming and supportive to me. And I have a sneaking suspicion that it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with them. They're really awesome people. And tonight's event is part of a series that we're calling Neighbors, in which I talk with organizations of interest to the South Florida small press comics community. And that series was actually born out of another panel that Lillian and Steve were on when we were talking, and I thought to myself, man, Dale Zine deserves its own event so we can take a deeper dive into all the things that they do. So here we are. I'm really excited to be doing this. So I'm gonna share my screen real quick as I introduce Dale Zine. Established in 2009 in Miami, Dale Zine is an independent printer and publisher with the goal of giving a platform to multimedia artists and designers. With humble beginnings as a zine collaboration about Garfield, Dale has broadened into something of an open cultural space for the Miami community, with offerings ranging from all-age zine workshops to an independent radio show, pop-up events, and a storefront in downtown Miami. Collaborations of note include those with Tim Biskup, Matt Fury, Lego Welt, and Friends with You, to name just a few of over 75 titles and counting. You can find Dale Zine's work in Miami, Tokyo, LA, New York, Beijing, and online on this beautiful website that we're looking at right now, dalezine.com. So welcome.
Awesome. Nice to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. Like a lot of good things, Dale Zine's story, as mentioned in the bio, starts with Garfield. What's the story behind the Garfield zine, which I think is called Super Great?
Yeah, Super Great Volume 1, which hopefully one day there'll be a 2. But that started basically at the time, like around 2009. I was working for, like you mentioned, Friends with You. We had set up like a studio where we did commercial work for brands, like big brand stuff. And I was the lead art director for that. So I was working with like a lot of cool creatives and Friends with You, and like just a lot of the friends that were coming in the office all the time were just super inspiring. So I was like, I should ask all these people to like make a zine with me. And I'm super into Garfield, obviously. So I was just like, I wanted like one thing that everybody could like focus on and reinterpret in their own way. And I just thought of Garfield, like something random. And the zine just consisted of just, like over 25 artists and writers and everything, just reinterpreting Garfield. So on each page is just like a vision of what they had in mind. And then like from that zine, a lot of artists that submitted for that, I thought, why don't we make a whole book out of your work, and then kind of just spread from there. Yeah, we have like a bunch of titles now. We just keep doing it, but it all started from Garfield.
And was that your first zine, or had you
Yeah,
been
I think
making zines before then? Or
I guess no. I think that was my first zine that like I really took seriously, and I produced a bunch of them, and I had the intention of spreading it. So I would say that's my first. Yeah.
nice. And was that like, branded is a weird word to use when talking about zines, but was that like a Dale zine, or was that like before like the name came along?
No, so the name was before. So it was, I say, established in 2009 because the whole idea and everything was already, in motion. Um, yeah, but I had intended it for it to be like a quote unquote fake company like called Dale Zine. And, and that was how the zine was gonna be, like produced by this company called Dale Zine. And then so I had the already like the idea of like put the logo on the back. Like every zine is gonna have the logo on the back. I'm gonna build this website, and I started selling them on Tumblr at first. So it'd be just like a post, and then I figured out how to get like a PayPal buy now code to whip up like the button. It was super janky, but like it
Yeah.
ended up working for a while, and then realized that like Cargo Collective was a nice platform, and then we moved everything over there. It looks a little more legit now. A little bit more.
Yeah, and jokes on us about that fake company now actually becoming like more of a company.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you were like, wait a minute, this like fake company is now like a real company?
I guess like when we had like a bunch of zines that were all on the website, and we're like, my friends kept telling me, you need to like, make it an LLC and do this whole thing. And I was like, well, this is just for fun or whatever. But I guess the moment was like when we first did our first printed matter book fair in LA, like a while back. I don't remember the year. Maybe Lillian does. Like I think it was 2013 maybe or something. That was when we had so much support at the table, and I felt like, wow, I should like really take this more seriously like than I had, and like just keep having a blast doing it. So
Yeah, I think like it was kind of like, oh, we can actually do something a little bit more serious now that we have more than just like one zine, but it still felt like a hobby. I feel like it feels more like a company. I think like the real shift happened because everything, well, even when we moved back to Miami and we started to do pop-ups and stuff, it was still like a fun activity and fun hobby, and then I think it just, yeah, it starts becoming more of like, wait, like obligations than like this fun hobby that we do on the weekends.
they're like fun obligations.
Yeah,
Like
because we love the
yeah,
community. Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. So, and speaking of the name, like before I moved to Miami, like I didn't know the term Dale. What I understand it to mean is sort of like a, like, come on, let's go kind of like thing. And is that a correct assertion?
Yeah.
So like what you mean by it, and then also kind of like what sort of like energy does having a name like that like give to these like fun obligations?
I guess you're totally spot on, and that's kind of at the beginning. It was just like we're both like, I'm Cuban and Lillian's Colombian. It's like a word you hear like all the time, and like growing up, but it definitely does mean that, and it to me as well, and it kind of goes for a big publisher to hit you up to do your book, like just do it already. Like it's very much in the core of like what we do, like I wanted to put out this the zine, and at the beginning, and at the first I was like, oh, who's gonna publish this? Like, I want to get it a real impact, and like, it was just no, like, why don't you just do it on your own? You know, like, do it already. Like, don't sit around and wait for, like, at the time there's like Picture Book and still like Neve's books and like all these big zine companies that I would have loved if they published it, but if I would have waited around, you know, like, might have not sparked all this, you know. So it's kind of like the Start Today thing. Like, is this? It goes perfectly with the name, you know. At least that's the story I gave it to to give it some rationale.
Sounds legit to me.
Yeah.
But I mean that, you know, yeah, that totally like, I mean, that works with the whole zine ethos of like,
Right.
like not waiting for some outside source to like validate your work and just doing it yourself. Yeah. So you were, there were all these artists that you were working with that you were excited about, and wanted to like help give them a platform. So when you are publishing people's zines, do you have like a mission statement for Dale Zine, or like a philosophy that you refer to, or is it just kind of like, is it just people that whose work you dig? Like what makes a zine sort of a Dale zine?
It's like it's all over the place, but I think the one thing that we've never compromised at all is like, we don't like publish anything that's negative or obviously or like hurtful to someone or like pornographic. Like, we do our thing is like, we love working with kids and stuff, so we're always very mindful. Like, we want to inspire kids, and just that's our only like thing that we won't publish. But it started as like having all these talented friends back then, and some of them weren't sure if they were even like artists, or like didn't want to even make that leap to put themselves out there like that. And I feel like we would kind of like bug them a little bit. Like, let's just make a zine. Like, what's so hard? Like, it's not as scary as like putting on a show somewhere, or, you know what I mean? So I think that's always been in like what Dale Zine is about, to push our friends that we see crazy talent in, you know? But it's been everything. It's been like, obviously like illustrators, photographers, and writers, and it's just all over the place. Like, it's kind of just like stuff that me and Lillian like, and our friend Roy Neil Hunter that does this project with us as well. It's like, we all just grab inspiration, and sometimes people hit us up, and sometimes I'll message somebody and see if they write me back, and it's all over that way, you know, all over the place.
Yeah, and I think that just to like piggyback on that a little bit too, it's like, it's not just like stuff that we are attracted to, or like, oh, that we think that's cool. It's a lot of people that, you know, we've met, or they'll submit to us, and even like sometimes like, you know, we're busy, we're not able to, like, at the moment it's like not the best time to publish something, and someone will submit a zine to us, and it makes me feel like, well, then you should publish it. Just because like we can't publish it for whatever reason, it doesn't mean it shouldn't be a zine. So like, we always encourage people to self-publish themselves too.
Yeah, that's 100%. And what's beautiful about, like, we'll talk about later, probably, the shop, is that if we can't publish it, we still want to carry it at the shop, you know? So it gives them that platform there. But yeah, also the printed matter book fairs have been like such like life-changing for us, because a lot of the books that we publish have happened like organically, because somebody that we're tabling next to that we develop a friendship with, or somebody that we meet at those New York, Chicago, LA, all over, you know? So that's helped us a lot as well. Like, pick what we're going to publish, and those opportunities, like, we never force, they just kind of happen. So.
Nice. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, we're really blessed to like have met a ton of people. There you go. I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry. Could you say the last thing that you said again?
No, we just been lucky to meet all these people through the book fairs, and like that has all happened like organically and not forced ever, you know. Like we don't have like a schedule of like how many books we want to put out a year. We just kind of, if it feels right, we do it, and yeah.
Nice. That is a great philosophy to like run a publishing business off of. So you mentioned that you started publishing, and then you were tabling at like art book fairs and that sort of thing. And then you mentioned pop-ups. I know that you did at like Art Basel, you've like done like a zine library, right?
Yeah, like a lot of pop-ups have happened. Like the Dale Zine shop kind of started, it's always been a goal of ours, but we did a pop-up with our buddy Jesse Knight. Like right when we had moved to LA, and then we moved back home, I think around 2015 or so. And she was throwing a show, and the space was kind of pretty large, like, and she had a whole back area that wasn't going to be utilized. So she asked us to, you know, like what ideas would you have to fill up that space back there, and we'll do the show together. And we kind of built out this mini Dale Zine shop concept. And then there's where we started doing like a lot of like, it was like right in Wynwood, like at the beginning of Wynwood, like on 2nd and 20, or no, like I think 14th Street or something. Where there used to be a lot of kids that were from that neighborhood just walking around and coming into a space. So me and Lillian were like, why don't we set up like a zine making workshop for them? Or so we just started developing workshops from that, you know, like seeing how much joy it brings people, and for us, how rewarding it is, you know. So yeah, like over the years, we've done a ton of pop-ups, but it's kind of stemmed from that right when we moved back home, you know.
Nice. And so then the space, so for several years you had a storefront at Mana Contemporary's 777 International Mall downtown on Flagler. And that also, did that start off as like a pop-up also? Or,
yeah.
And then you just never left?
Yeah, literally we were supposed to be there just for like 4 days. And at the end of the day, at like the last day, you know, we got emotional. We were all sad. I went through the whole thing. And the person curating was like, can you not take everything down just yet? And we're like, okay, sure, but why? And she's like, I have this idea. And so then she proposed to Mana this, you know, multicultural space, and letting us stay there for what, how many years? Almost 3 years, right?
Yeah, I think it was like 3 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that was a big surprise. It did start off as a little, you know, just for the Art Basel Miami Art Week, you know. So it's been really crazy. And that started as like our neighbors at that shop were, at the time it was O Miami, and they actually had suggested that we take the spot next to them. So they were the ones that introduced us to that residency program. So like we owe them a lot. They've always been like the best. Yeah, and we ended up like checking it out, and they approved us, and then we just been there since. And then, as you might know, or people might have seen, that it's completely gutted now, and the mall's empty, unfortunately. But yeah, we're lucky. We got relocated to a space around the corner, so that's almost ready. We've just been like remodeling since the new year, pretty much, but we're almost done.
Nice. So, and like the old space was it a jewelry or like perfume, like kiosk thing? It was a very
perfume kiosk.
It was a very tiny space.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was perfume, but I also think it used to be a watch repair place, because every day we were open, someone would come to us to fix their watch. Yeah. We should have learned how to do that. It would have made some money.
What is the new space like?
So the new space is like something we've always dreamed of. It's like, it's actually like a little store with a door and like window space. It's really beautiful. It's like something we've always imagined, you know. It's not perfect, but we're just been having fun, like making it ours. Like we changed the floors, we painted and worked with like really talented people to like design furniture, and we're really excited. And that's something else. Yeah, it's almost there. We're just doing some final touches on it.
You know, I guess like the difference with this shop than what the other place was that, you know, it was made for, you know, as like a kiosk, and you know, we want to eventually sell different things, so it's just hard to merchandise to like an open kiosk. You know, we couldn't really sell even zines, like we had in plastic wraps, and you know, it was really hard because of how much dust would go in there. So we had to be careful about what we would sell in there, and how it was protected and all that stuff. So this gives us like so much of what we're selling, and kind of organize ourselves a little bit better. And also like the first shop, honestly, was a huge like lesson for us. Like, you know, we like learned so much about running something, you know, in that, you know, capacity. So, you know, it feels a little bit like we're a little bit more confident about, you know, about this next step for Dale.
Yeah, and also I wanted to add that the new store is of course still focused on plenty of zines, but we are gonna be distributing or selling a lot of like hardcover coffee table art books as well. So it's like something that's really exciting for us, because we've always just carried zines and prints, and which is great, obviously, but we wanted to like take the next step of being like more of like an art bookstore / zine shop, you know? So we're really excited that we're going to be able to carry like larger format books and that good stuff. So
that's awesome. So when thinking about your previous space and the new space, like having sort of like a more permanent home, I'm not sure like how long of like the time that you spent that you like knew that you were going to be there for a while at 777, but like how did having like a space where people came to you, like, and it was like a reliable space, like how did that change sort of what you were doing with Dale Zine?
I think that we had more of a face to our customer, because forever we would always kind of travel. So like no matter what, yeah, it could be someone that like might have a Miami connection. Maybe it's a friend that like lives in that city that would support us. But mostly there were always like new faces to us. So for us, you know, we didn't know who was like, you know, that block had nothing before. So we didn't know like who was going to be there and who was going to support us. I can like count like on one hand. I was like, hey, my friend will come, my parents will come. And so that was really shocking for us to see how many people did come and support us. And yeah, there were tons of friends, people that supported us for a long time, but also just like different generations of people just really interested in the store. And that to us was very like very shocking. And you know, we're still like that hasn't like we're not that confident, you know what I mean? We don't know what's going to happen with this next shop. You know, now that I feel like that block has gotten a lot busier, now we're going to another block that isn't as busy, but I'm kind of like, well, you know, I think we might get the same type of magic where, you know, you get people that really want something like this in Miami to be happening, you know, so they'll come to you, you know, but at the same time, I'm like still counting on one hand who will come, you know?
Yeah, like we just always put our best foot forward and hope people want to come, and you know, but we're excited. Yeah, it's hopefully soon everything will come together.
And I think it's also too, like, in that space, like with the mall, when we first started to what it became, and like, you know, we didn't, like, after, you know, we knew that we're going to be there for some time, we would sign a lease and things like that, but we always knew that wasn't going to be a permanent space. So we always like knew that like the rug was going to be pulled out of our, you know, under us at any time. So like that was always looming, but it always like made us think about what's next for us, and like what didn't work for us there, what we loved about there. And I'm like, I mean, obviously, like we wish we could have had that space forever, you know, but it's also like what a relief to like have a store front that feels more of like a bookshop. And like, you know, as much as we love throwing events and, you know, all that stuff, it's kind of nice to like kind of focus more on running a bookshop and not a little bit less of a event shop, you know, like not that Dale was always throwing the event, but we were always like somehow in like a hallway to an event, you know?
Yeah, it was the residency of that mall, you know?
Right, because there was always something happening there, and you were like literally at the front door of the building with like without any like door to your space. So you were like, people basically had to enter Dale Zine to get to like anything.
It was great,
happening.
You know, was amazing. And I'm sure we've got to like people that would have never even come to the shop had to, you know. And so that you know, that was a great opportunity too, but I think we're just excited to just focus on a shop right now.
So it's more like the new space is more of a bookstore. I know that like at the end of your time at 777, you at least like, I don't know if it ever happened because it like started right around the time that the pandemic like shut everything down, but you had a print shop, right? That you were opening up in the building too. Is that like over or?
We wanted that project. We still want to continue. We are definitely putting a pause on it until, like, I think something we're like also realizing too is like, you know, because like we know we're going to be at the shop for a while, that we don't have to do everything when we first open. So I want to like concentrate on like the shop being open and what works, and then start introducing other elements into the shop, like a print shop, so like you know, what type of items are we selling and things like that. I just want to come in very confident because I feel like so like the print shop that we had, you know, we had to close basically right away, and we never got to really use it. So we want to do that. I just think we want to focus on reopening the shop and do it really right before we introduce this bigger element.
And was that going to be like a print shop in that like people come and say, I need this printed, and you print it for them? Or was it going to be a community print shop in which people could come and like be like, I want to print this zine that I made? And like,
I think there's two ideas with it, where it's basically like we wanted to give like on a print shop rate for people that are making like zines, and you know, because it's most options and locally is like Office Depot, and it costs a lot of money to print one zine. So we wanted to kind of open it up for very cheap printing, and then kind of start doing workshops with we have a Rizzo that we love, and we want to really focus on like doing workshops with Rizzos and, you know, that kind of thing. But we wouldn't be like a print shop where like, I need 400 business cards, like come, you know, it would be specifically for zines and like prints and things like that, like artist goods.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like we've kind of like skipped over a couple of things in that, like you sort of like have mentioned them offhand a couple of times, but like you are constantly doing like workshops, like zine making workshops and like art and like comics workshops, both for adults and for also a lot for kids. And then you've also been doing you organized I think for several years, I hope that you'll talk about this, a thing called Happy Zine, which are just like mini zine fairs. Can you talk about those more like, not that like any of the other things that you've been doing haven't been like community oriented, but like the more like either like educational things and also you're like sort of like giving out like a physical platform for people to sell their own work.
Yeah, Happy Zine is something that we started because there wasn't any print fairs going on. There was only one a year, you know, like two a year, like in different parts of the city. So we wanted to like build our own. We're like, let's do one every summer called Happy Zine. And the fun part of that was that every summer we try to change the location. So we got to do it in like really fun places. Like we did one at this place called Palacios de los Jugos in South Beach, which is like a famous Cuban spot. You might have been there, but so we hit them up and we're like, can we do a zine fair? It was kind of hard to explain to them, but they let us do it in their patio, which is really funny. We did that at a friend's coffee shop that used to be here on 8th Street called White Rose. We got to do it in a lot of fun places. So we're excited. Hopefully next summer, probably it's gonna happen again. But we just love doing that. There's like Lillian mentioned before, there's moments where people write to us and they're like, I want to do this scene with you guys, but let's say it doesn't really fit with what we're trying to do or just doesn't work out. We could still offer them that platform of why don't you print it yourself? Here's some resources, and then come sell it at this event. You know, we never charge anybody anything for it. Or sorry, go ahead, Lillian.
Yeah. No, and I think like a big thing too is that we like us just going to doing our first zine fairs. Like, you know, Steve had done the Miami Zine Fair, but I think in LA there was more of like those smaller things happening that wasn't like such a big deal. Like, oh, like this is like this small fair happening this weekend, you know, come pull up. And we're like, we got to meet so many people that way. So when we moved back, I was like, this is a great platform that we can make it get really intimate. We wouldn't have that many people. And we would try not to have people that already like are really good friends. We would try to be like, kind of play like matchmaker, being like, maybe a really great collaboration will come out of these two vendors hanging out with each other, because that's mostly what it was. You know, it was mostly for like all of us that are really into printing or whatever we're doing, kind of meeting other new creatives, kind of doing a DIY world. And so we really felt like that was really important.
I will say from personal experience, the time that I tabled at Happy Zine, I ended up next to Eric Garcia from Kids Say Yeah Press, and I had met him at the Miami Zine Fair like in passing, but like spending that afternoon with him was really fantastic, and I feel like I gained a friend that's
the best part, right?
Day, and
yeah, and it's just so inspiring to be around like people that are like equally as passionate about what you're doing. And yeah, it's really fun. I can't wait to do it again. Hopefully soon.
Yeah. Are there, like, when you think about like South Florida small press publishing and self-publishing, are there themes that you see that are specific to South Florida zines? Or things that you see, like, yeah, go ahead.
Look, do you mean like currently or like kind of like in the span? Because I feel like I think Steve's the one who really introduced me to this, but like how powerful the zine culture was, you know, late 80s, early 90s in Miami. And it's all kind of around like music and kind of the punk culture, which is so interesting, you know? So that's like, looking back, it's like easier to like see it, you know, but currently, do you have any? Steve?
I don't know if I've noticed we're in such a tiny vacuum, so it's kind of hard to say but I guess I've seen a lot of people do stuff like based on Miami, you know, like I think people that live here like really take pride in it. And you'll see a lot of presses that do a lot of things regarding Miami, like just visually, you know, and like I think that's a cool trend. Like people do really love this crazy city of ours.
Yeah. I think a current trend I would have to say is like kind of archiving, like whether it's photos, like people like really taking photos of specific things in Miami, you know, or same thing with like poetry. It's like it's like I think people realize it is kind of going away, or you know, or whatever, or they kind of want to make it a time capsule of like what's happening right now, you know.
That's a good one. Yeah,
especially with like Little Haiti, seeing that grow, you know, right in front of our eyes, and like how important that history is of like Little Haiti, you know. So I think that's like a big trend, I think.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of that is a good point. There is a lot of like preservation efforts and a lot of protest work too, which is great, you know. Like obviously last year, all this stuff like sparked a lot of interest in politics and protest work. So that was really cool to see that. But I don't. That's not a trend, you know. But it's been great to see that, you know.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to get involved with Dale Zine, you know, either whether it's like next summer tabling at Happy Zine, or like selling their zines through Dale, or if they are like hoping that Dale Zine would want to publish their work, is there an application process, or like should people just email you? Like, do you?
Yeah.
What's the?
I would say
LOL.
just email us. Like we love getting, you know, any interest in what we're doing, and we want to help people. Like I said, we always send, if we can't publish it for whatever reason, we'll send you resources how to get it done cheap, you know, and help you like figure out distributors and put it in our shop. And but yeah, like it's never a bother. Like DM us or email us.
Yeah, and I think too is like we are like a very small company. Like it's just me and Steve and Roy, and we all like we're still, you know, have full-time jobs and things like that. So don't think you're bothering us if we haven't replied to your email, you know, or like, you know, or remind us like, hey, you know, because I've also there's been like a lull a little bit of like, you know, we didn't know if we were going to reopen, where I was going to reopen, and now we kind of see it like, you know, it's going to happen, you know, hopefully in the next few weeks. So I feel like, you know, if anyone, like this is a great time to email us, you know, if you had before and, you know, we were in a lull, like you didn't, you know, just it's okay. And like definitely email over DM, but DMs are fine. I just don't want people to go missing in the DMs, you know.
Yeah, we're excited because like we obviously didn't travel to any book fairs this year, so our publishing efforts kind of halted for a bit. Like we said, we started just focusing our efforts on protest materials that were passed out and um, delivered through our online efforts. But now the store is open. We keep doing that stuff as well, but we're excited to protest again, to publish again. Like now that we have the store, it gives us more of like, we're like excited again and get it out there to like local communities, you know? So now would be a good time to, if you have a project that you're excited about, to write us. And um, yeah, it's coming back, like that excitement of being able to like publish again, which I know you're doing, like those beauties behind you, but like did you feel that way as well? Like you were waiting to see if things opened up again, or were you just focusing on distributing online?
Yeah, I mean, so much of like what Radiator Comics does is like was online already. That it was pretty easy to sort of just like stay online.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like the in-person stuff is so nice, like to be able to explain it, and it's so much. I just miss it so much, like tabling and all that. But the store is a good opportunity for that because we can really talk through, like we could talk your ear off about any book that's in there, So we're just excited for that face to face again.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to stop by and check out the shop. I did want to open things up to questions from the audience. We do have a question in the chat from Jackson, who asks, zine fairs are pretty far apart in South Florida. How do you think we can build a larger zine community and bring more people together?
In the past, we feel like the store served as that, like, that post where you can stop by there, like on your way home from work or whatever, and drop off your new zine. And we would hold a lot of events there, like talks and stuff like that. So we hope the store is gonna serve a little bit of in that purpose, to bring people together. Is that we feel like the last store did that in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just hope the store is gonna help with that.
I also think, like, again, like the name of our shop is Dale, and I think that, like, we want, like, there to be like $15. We want there to be $50. I think, like, people just need to start making zines and putting their stuff out there, and I think that everyone waits, and I mean, we're guilty of it too. Like, we wait for a fair to put out some zines, and but at least we have, like, I've realized, like, in this past year we kind of stopped, we didn't know what was going on, and like I kind of, even myself, was like, man, I can't remember the last time I personally made a zine, and it's like disappointing of myself. So I feel like, I think if individually, if everyone, not only is contributing by their own, by self-publishing, but then also helping other people,
Yeah, like
hosting a zine fair or a mini fair, because I don't even call what we did was a fair, what I mean? I feel like it was just a little pop-up, and I think that there should be more people hosting that, your friends, like, you have a friend that has a coffee shop, like, or you don't know the person. Like, I didn't even know the people at White Rose when I emailed them about doing it, and now they became our friends. I think that like, I feel in the beginning of this, we didn't have that many friends or people in the community that helped us, but now we have so many. So you just got to start somewhere. And I think, like, we can wait for the next fair to happen, but you can also do it yourself.
Yeah, it's a good point to, like, if let's say every 6 months there's one event, like do some every 2 months, or like do your own event. Like, this whole Zoom thing too has been great. Like, you can do a reading of a new zine you're interested in, or brainstorm with friends. Like, just, I think Miami's kind of always been like, growing up here, people complain about, like, the lack of culture there for things like this, and art related programs. And I think the best thing is just to do, like, be the example that you want, like, start doing your own things to inspire people, like, you'll build a community faster than you know it,
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to Jackson's zine fair now. Thank you for the question,
Awesome.
Jackson. And Jackson follows up asking, do you have any tips on organizing zine events? How do you get artists and guests?
Just what we did, we pretty much
just ask people. Yeah.
Started bugging everyone. like we're doing an event, like, I always liked making the graphics for all that stuff. Like, I really cared about the look and feel of, like, the flyers, and I always, like, had a thing where I was like, I want to put everybody's name, like, nice and big, so they get, like, a nice shout out on the page. Like, just make everybody feel like it's I don't know, like bigger than it is. we always just wanted to make it like a big spectacle, but then it's just like a fun printed kind of event. But just
Yeah.
bug people, even the people you think are like unattainable, like they'll surprise you sometimes, and they'll show up at their table and their stuff, and you'd be surprised, just bug people nonstop.
And again, like, there's no, like, you don't have to be a designer, graphic designer to make a flyer. You can scribble it,
Yeah,
you
like
might not be able to afford to like print 400 zines. Just make 5, and if you sell out, you sell out, and ask your friends, like, hey, let's do this project together, like Steve did. Let's make a zine together, or you make your own zine, and let's like just see if anyone comes to this thing. I think that's a great start if if you're intimidated to like even start asking people. But before you know it, people just start asking you like, oh, when's the next one? What, like, how can I get involved? And I think it's just you gotta start somewhere, and I think like one thing about Miami that we take for granted when especially when we moved away was that like it's such like a small pond, and it was a lot of creative, amazing people. And it's a lot, I know it's like a lot harder almost to organize these things in like bigger cities, and somehow Miami you can. And I think I could say for most of Florida you can be like that, and it's, I feel like it's frustrating. People are like, oh, there's no culture in Miami, there's no this, there's not none of that. And I think that's where Steve and I were like, I don't want to complain anymore, I just want to do something about it.
yeah,
And
like
I think that's just like where you could just start with that, passion.
yeah, and like don't. I mean, if you were to, in my opinion, if you were to start like you wanted to do a little zine fair, like start at a coffee shop, like Lillian said. Don't start at a big convention center where the risk is huge. It seems so unattainable and difficult. Like start very small and build it up slowly and organically. And the guest thing, I feel like we never really did it to like attract like a ton of guests. That's always nice, obviously, but usually when you get a few like tablers and exhibitors, they're gonna bring their friends, and that's like enough. It's like ends up being really fun and small. There was some happy zines that barely anybody came, but all the vendors together, we ended up having a blast. Some of them were really busy out of nowhere. Um, but it's never about that. It was just we always wanted obviously the vendors to make a little bit of money. Of course, like their time is valuable like anybody else's, but it was always about like the camaraderie of it and showing each other's like projects that we nerd out about. I don't know. I hope that helps answer, Jackson.
That was really great. I was wondering if you could talk at all about there are like artists or organizations that in South Florida that really excite you in the self-publishing and small press community.
You want to start that?
Honestly, like I feel like what's so fun about like print culture, especially zines, is that it's endless like discoveries of like really great publishers. And like I feel like you can never attain to know it all, because before you know it there's like someone else doing such an incredible idea. But I mean, obviously, like we could speak about a lot of the people that we like, and we love Unity Press out of Oakland and what they represent. We also love like Liver Ideas and Heads Magazine out of Richmond, Virginia. But then there's also like, I remember like the last Chicago Zine Fair that Steve and I went to, there was like a few volunteers that had like organized like at a senior home and helped like the seniors make like incredible zines. Because like like one was like a beautiful like written like story, another one was just like really funny like comedy. And I was like, that's such a great idea and so cool to see, like, you know, seniors like having this platform, you know, and like, you know, like taking it seriously. So I feel like there's always, you know, it's always fun to see, like, I don't know, like kid zines, you know, and it's like really excited to show up me, like, you know, there's a zine about Spider-Man, and I get so inspired by that, you know, and it makes me so excited to see that. So it's like, of course, but I feel like, you know, with Instagram now too, like you could just like get into a rabbit hole, but there's nothing like, you know, like I just love going through any zines, and like I feel like I'll never know everything, and I love that about it.
Yeah, like, but in particular in Florida, there's just so many people. It's like Highlight Books, although Miami, there's so many people around us. Like the stuff you're doing is so rad and unique. Radiator Comics and Eric, like you mentioned, is always doing the killer risograph work. And you printed something with Eric, right? Like a comic.
Yeah,
once?
we did the Sun and Sand comic anthology.
Yeah,
that co-published with Jamila Rouser.
Yeah, that came out. That was like the 2-color one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super beautiful. So there's just so much stuff, and like Lillian said, like when we go on these trips before, like we take all that inspiration, like try to bring that back home. You know, it's like we've always wanted to carry stuff that's never been in like Florida, you know, or Miami. Like you get to meet these people like Can Press, their buddies in Mexico City. Like we bring that stuff back. It's like you never would see that in Miami, you know. Like we're just excited to like redo that again with the story, you know.
Yeah, and I think like considering like South Florida like presses, or like Florida presses, like we're always like so surprised when we find like a new press, and like they might not have like they might not, you know, put out 5 zines a year, you know, but like every time they have a zine, we're just like, oh my god, this is incredible, and we just want to support it. I mean, like at the Miami Zine Fair, I feel like Miami Zine Fair is tons of kids, like not kids, but anybody that like this is their one fair that they do, and so they make a zine, and I'm always like so enthralled by each single one of them.
Nice. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you think that I should have asked?
I don't think so. Lynn, do you have anything else that you want to mention?
Any parting
thoughts? I just come support the shop. If you have a zine, a printed thing, or anything like that, you know, don't be shy. Tell us about it. We'll be happy to carry at the shop. If you don't know where to start, you just email us and we can help you with like how to make a zine, you know. We're always happy to help.
Cool. Yeah, that seems like a great place to wrap things up. I just pasted in links to Dale Zine, also the Dale Zine shop, and the Instagram, many ways in which you can get in touch with Steve and Lillian. Thank you so much for like pulling back the curtain on Dale Zine. That was really great. So in addition to checking Dale Zine stuff online, be sure to follow their social media, because Dale's new shop, as has been mentioned several times, will be opening in just a few weeks. Who knows? But I'm super excited about it. It's going to be at 79 Southeast 1st Street, downtown Miami. So I've also pasted a few links into the chat for some upcoming events for Radiator Comics Studio that I wanted to mention. I'm going to share my screen real quick for this as well. So a week from today, June 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're celebrating the release of Spiny Aura Weaver #3, which just got in the mail today. Jamila Rouser, Buttercup, Remus Jackson, and Marjulia will be joining us to talk about their work, about the comics and conversations in this issue, and to talk some more about South Florida. So I'm very excited about that. And then on Sunday, June 13th at 5 p.m. Eastern, if you're a cartoonist, please join us for Cartoonist Coffee. There's casual, small group conversations with cartoonists about anything you want. It doesn't have to be about comics. And then we are also planning an event for Tuesday, June 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, but in true Zinester fashion, we're not ready to announce it yet, but it's gonna be awesome. So block off your calendar for that. And then every Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, we host Open Studio, which is a quiet work time for you to work on your comics in the presence of others on Zoom. And then also we did mention in the conversation Sun and Sand comic anthology, which Radiator Comics co-published with Black Jose Press, printed by Kids Say Yeah Press, who I met, or I got to know a lot better at a Happy Zine. You can go to sunsandcomics.wordpress.com and you can read all the comics that were in the first issue for free online. You can download a free PDF if you want, or you can request a physical copy. And if you cover the postage and handling, we will mail you a copy. Yeah, those are all of my announcements for Radiator Comics Studio. I want to thank very much, again, Lillian Banderas and Steve Saiz from Dale Zine for this fantastic conversation. And thanks to everybody who joined us tonight. And I hope everybody has a safe and wonderful week.
Thank you. Thanks again for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.